नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने।
विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने।
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी सत्यादेशतारिणे।
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे।
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री
कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Nope, I did Mridanga. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Badabha Girivara Daji Gopijana Badabha Girivara Daji Gopijana Badabha Girivara Daji Jasodhanandana Prajajanranjana Jasodhanandana Prajajanranjana Jamuna Tiravanatyadi Yamuna Tiravanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Adi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhadi Jasodhanandana Prajajanranjana Jasodhanandana Prajajanranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Yamuna Tiravana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hari Vajagacharya Astatara Satasi Simad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Gaura Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, verse 23. 2, 4, 23. Narayanam namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. So, Bhutar Mahadvirya Imam Puro Vibhur. This is Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 23. Bhutar Mahadbhir Ya Imam Puro Vibhur. Silence. Responsive chanting. Nirmaya Sheteyad Amushu Purushaha Bhunkte Gunan Shodashat Makam Talang Krishishta Bhagavan Ivachangsi Me Mutair Mahadbhirya Imam Puro Vibhur Nirmaya Shete Yad Amusha Purushaha Bhunkte Gunan Shodashat Bakam Satlang Krishishta Bhagavan Vachangsi Me. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the materially created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe, and who in his Purusha incarnation causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material modes, which are his generator, be pleased to decorate my statements. Interesting verse. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As a fully dependent devotee, Shukadeva Goswami, unlike a mundane man who is proud of his own capability, invokes the pleasure of the personality of Godhead so that his statements may be successful and be appreciated by the hearers. The devotee always thinks of himself as instrumental for anything successfully carried out, and he declines to take credit for anything done by himself. The godless atheist wants to take all credit for activities, not knowing that even a blade of grass cannot move without the sanction of the Supreme Spirit, the personality of Godhead. Shukadeva Goswami, therefore, wants to move by the direction of the Supreme Lord who inspired Brahma to speak the Vedic wisdom. The truths described in the Vedic literatures are not theories of mundane imagination, nor are they fictitious, as the less intelligent class of men sometimes think, the Vedic truths are all perfect descriptions of the factual truth without any mistake or illusion. And Shukadeva Goswami wants to present the truths of creation, not as a metaphysical theory of philosophical speculation, but as the actual facts and figures of the subject, since he would be dictated to by the Lord exactly in the same manner as Brahmaji was inspired. In the statement of Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the Lord himself, the father of the Vedic knowledge, is himself the father of Vedic knowledge, and it is he only who knows the factual purport of the Vedanta philosophy. So, there's no greater truth than the principles of religion mentioned in the Vedas. Such Vedic knowledge or religion is disseminated by authorities like Shukadeva Goswami because he is a humble devotional servitor of the Lord who has no desire to become a self-appointed interpreter without authority. That is the way of explaining the Vedic knowledge, technically known as the parampara system or descending process, paragraph. The intelligent man can see without mistake that any material creation, whether one's own body or a fruit or flower, cannot beautifully grow up without the spiritual touch. The greatest intelligent man of the world, or the greatest man of science, can present everything very beautifully only insofar as the spirit life is there, or insomuch as the spiritual touch is there. Therefore, the source of all truths is the Supreme Spirit and not gross matter as wrongly conceived by the gross materialist. We get information from the Vedic literature that the Lord himself first entered the vacuum of the material universe, and thus all things gradually developed one after another. Similarly, the Lord is situated as the localized Paramatma in every individual being. Hence, everything is done by him very beautifully. The 16 principal creative elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, sky, and the 11 sense organs, including the mind, first developed from the Lord himself and were thereby shared by the living entities. Thus, the material elements were created for the enjoyment of the living entities. The beautiful arrangement behind all material manifestations is therefore made possible by the energy of the Lord, and the individual living entity can only pray to the Lord to understand it properly. Since the Lord is the supreme entity, different from Shukadeva Goswami, the prayer can be offered to him. The Lord helps the living entity to enjoy material creation, but he is aloof from such false enjoyment. Shukadeva prays for the mercy of the Lord, not only for being helped personally in presenting the truth, but also for helping others to whom he would like to speak. Prabhupada's purports are exquisite. Try composing something, right? Explaining the message of Krishna consciousness I mean, different people have different gifts. Prabhupada's gift of writing was recognized way, way, way back. Bhaktisiddhanta recognized it, and other devotees. A God-given gift. And it's something that's a God-given gift, and you practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, it becomes refined. Is this little piano yours? Yes? Is this piano yours? Do you practice? And practice and practice and practice and practice, and who knows? You may become a very gifted pianist. I know a young girl, a little older than you. She practiced every day, and she's now in the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. Just by, a little piano and practice and practice. So what to speak of when the message is fully because piano playing or anything musical or this thing or that thing or the other thing, anything done for the service of Krishna, it's decorated. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair ganesh tatra samasutesra. The elegance of something that is from Krishna offered back to Krishna becomes decorated with opulences. And the person who makes that offering becomes also decorated with wonderful qualities. It's just the way of devotional service, however simple an individual may be. So now Shukadeva Goswami here, we spent a little bit of time yesterday discussing about Shukadeva, and he had a mission. His purpose was to receive from his father and distribute it to others. From his father, the compiler of the Vedas and the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, his father, Vyasadeva had disciples, and very qualified disciples. Like when he divided, it's in the first canto, when he divided the Vedas into 4, each one of the 4 sections of the Vedas, he entrusted to this disciple, that disciple. He had very qualified disciples. When he compiled the Puranas, he entrusted to another. So he had many, many disciples, but they were not gifted like Shukadeva was gifted. But he Vyas, knew that, and he wanted a very qualified representative of his writings. And thus Shukadeva Goswami was born for that higher purpose. And so he did. So the consciousness is of Shukadeva is being presented. He knows. It's not like he doesn't know. He's Professor Shukadeva. He knows his subject matter. But when he's presenting, he's looking to the person who's the source of what he knows for the empowerment to present it properly. In other words, the consciousness of Shukadeva is as an instrument. And it's an important example. The details, as the details unfold, it's pretty spectacular. The process of creation that he knows, that it happens, what to speak of, describing it, that it happens, and the way that he describes it. He knows how it's, but he wants, Shukadeva Goswami wants not just, to know his subject matter, because he knows his subject matter, not just to represent it as it is, because that needs empowerment also, but that it can strike the hearts and the minds of the audience. Now, in this case, Shukadeva Goswami's audience is Maharaj Parikshit, but as we heard yesterday, there are a lot of sages in the assembly. What was the number? 40,000? 40,000. He got a big audience. And he has a desire. Certainly, the main focus is Maharaj Parikshit, for good reason. Besides, he's the king. And the circumstance of his demise. He wants that that Maharaj Parikshit understand. But his wanting, his desire goes beyond, which isn't being indicated here. I'll just read this last. Shukadev prays for the mercy of the Lord, not only for being helped personally in presenting the truth, but also for helping others to whom he would like to speak. Now, helping others. Behind one of the inspirations or purposes behind devotional service to Krishna is Krishna should be pleased. And in addition to Krishna being pleased, those who hear the topics of Krishna should be pleased. They will not be pleased if Krishna isn't pleased. They may be pleased if Krishna is pleased. So the point is, he's conscious of the audience, and in addition to being conscious of the audience, he has a mission, representing his father and the message of Bhagavan, because that's what Srimad Bhagavatam is, message of Bhagavan, of and about Bhagavan. He wants to present it properly. And effectively. So what's coming up in upcoming sections of this chapter and so forth, the process of creation is very complicated. And it's based on cause and effect. Like, anything of this world, there's a cause. And then from the cause, you may notice the effect, but you may not perceive the cause. You can perceive the effect. But he knows the cause and the effect, and he wants to portray it properly. And it's a little, try to build a universe. It's very involved. And he's heard, he knows what Lord Brahma knows, because he heard it from his father. And Brahma is the chief engineer. He not just knows how to build an automobile or a computer or a, whatever, all the details of a universe. As an engineer needs to know how something, the push and pull, the cause and the effect of everything. However, most people who are engineers are not conscious of the cause of those causes, or the cause of all causes. And, the best engineer is the one who knows the Lord Brahma, the cause of all causes, as well as the effects that then are then further causes of the next effect, and downstream the domino effect of building a universe. Subtle principles are essential in order for grosser principles to manifest. And then behind those subtle principles, there's spirit. And then there's not only spirit, but there's spiritual personality. just this morning, I was listening to a recorded lecture. Prabhupada was explaining the Ishopanishad verse, Om Purnamadak Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachate, etc. And Prabhupada was contrasting the scientist and the impersonalist with the devotee. The materialist scientist thinks matter is the cause, material combination. In a sophisticated way, by chance, this matter, that matter get together and makes life, or makes things happen, or whatever. There's a material cause and material effect only. And the impersonalist understands, no, everything, matter comes from spirit, and if the matter from which the spirit comes, it's false. This classical Shankara's teachings is Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya. So even, the mithya, this material world is false. They don't have the clear sense of that it's temporary or it's a reflection. It's just false, point blank, false. Doesn't exist. Wow, doesn't exist. And what exists? Brahman. What's Brahman? The undifferentiated Supreme. No qualities, no this, no that, and that's reality. So Prabhupada's point was the Vaishnava teaching also says everything comes from one source, but that one source is a person, and a Vaishnava is one who knows the personality of that source, from which variegatedness comes, because he's variegated. So behind variegatedness, there's variegatedness. Not behind variegatedness, there's nothing. Or it's just a non-variegated source. It's really quite unreasonable in this misunderstanding and misinterpretation of Vedic statements. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, a classic. All things come from Brahman, and the conception of Brahman is the impersonal feature. They don't call it the impersonal feature, but it's just not this, not this, not this, not this. Brahman, spirit. And that's the source of variegatedness. It's quite unreasonable. And the personal conception is quite reasonable. But as we don't see, in many cases, we don't see the subtle material that causes the next gross material, and then the more gross and the fully manifest material creation from subtle principles of matter. But that's not understood. What to speak of behind that is spirit, and behind that is the Supreme Spirit, the Supreme Person. So back to this purport, and the verse and purport. Immediately, Shukadeva Goswami is acknowledging and offering prayers to Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's a professor. He's a person in knowledge. And he wants to profess and to share that knowledge. But he's turning to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom all knowledge comes and all ability comes and everything comes. And he's looking to that. This is a Vaishnava, a superlative Vaishnava that Shukadeva Goswami is. He's relying upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead to present facts, not otherwise. Not fancy and mythology and creative expression. Admittedly, the Vedas are not easy to understand. So one way of dealing with that which is not easy to understand, you just whitewash it and say it's fiction. And then, if you take the position, no, it's not fiction, then what? It's hard to understand. I'll end with this. because it was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance day. There were 2 points that came up. One was there are lots of photographs of Bhaktisiddhanta in different moods, in different, bare-chested, and with a chaturmasya beard and big glasses, and sometimes appearing like a sadhu, sometimes appearing like not a sadhu, but he's a sadhu teaching yukta vairagya. There's lots of amazing photographs of Bhaktisiddhanta. So I shared those many photographs because somebody sent some to me. I sent them to a devotee who wrote back saying, "Thank you very much." And without all the details, once upon a time, in 9th grade, somebody gave me a copy of Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And I didn't find it intellectually stimulating. And it wasn't until Garuda Prabhu visited our university and explained how to read Bhagavad Gita properly that I started reading it again and started appreciating it again. And then in my senior year in high school, I received a copy of Sri Brahma Samhita. And I was like, wow, this person, he's an intellectual, and so he really liked the high language of Bhaktisiddhanta. And it's not just high language, it's very precise. Very precise. Exact words. As Prabhupada would sometimes want the devotees to tell him in English, because he knows the words in Sanskrit or Bengali, but he didn't always know the word in English. And he wants the right word. So, what to speak of Bhaktisiddhanta, his language was way up there. And the same thing happened to me. I mean, not like Prabhupada, I didn't get dissatisfied reading Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita because it was easy to understand. Anyway, when I read Bhaktisiddhanta's article, the Bhagavad, its morphology and ontology, the language is so high. It's and it was a written document, but he also spoke that written document in language that's so. The language is otherworldly. The concepts are otherworldly. What he's saying is not easy to understand. As Prabhupada would sometimes say, when hearing him speak, my brain was puzzled. Language-wise, and the juxtaposing this point with that point to the next point, Prabhupada's way is really easy to follow. Really easy to follow. And Bhaktisiddhanta's is not really easy to follow. But it's not because it's not easy to follow, it makes it, spectacular. It's just his style, his personality, his approach. It's easy to spend time talking about Bhaktisiddhanta. One of the things about Bhaktisiddhanta, when he was 4 years old, he had memorized Bhagavad Gita. But not only he had memorized Bhagavad Gita, but when asked to explain, he could give a 10-minute explanation of any verse of the entire Bhagavad Gita at 4 years of age. I mean, Sunday school, you may have Sunday school classes where kids have some competition and they can recite Bhagavad Gita slokas. Some kids are really good at it. Ask them the meaning. What to speak of any verse, or what's your favorite verse, or he's, without other examples, an otherworldly person. And it's not to say Prabhupada was a worldly person. He was also an otherworldly person. But his approach was very effective. If Bhaktisiddhanta, he would attract a certain audience, for sure. But the way that Prabhupada wrote and did what he did, tirelessly and so forth, the whole world moved, not just intellectuals. Not to say Bhaktisiddhanta only was attractive to intellectuals, because his devotion was 100% pristine. Anyway, back to the verse. The process of the unfolding of creation is complex. And Shukadeva Goswami is going to present it. That's, coming up. But how he begins that presentation, submission, invoking the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead specifically, who is the source of everything and who is the source of knowing everything, passing that on to Brahma and et cetera, in disciplic succession to his father and then to him. It's nice. It's the way things should be. Okay, we'll stop with that, see if there's some discussion. I have a question. No school? No, just your daughter. School? You what? Because I'm here, you're here. That's it? Well, thank you. I hope you don't get penalized for skipping school or something. Did you get permission to come late or something? Huh?
She told her teacher that today she has a ritual at home, so she's going to be late. And her teacher said, okay. So she came home.
You're cleared. Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Hare
Any
Krishna.
comments, discussion? You have a microphone. You going to use it?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, you mentioned about the Vedas being very complex. Why is it written very complex way, and whereas the Bhagavatam and other Puranas are much simpler?
Why is it complex?
Yes, Maharaj.
Creation. Is it, build a house. Like here, the temple is in the process of construction. The plan, it takes months. It's complex. So why are you asking, why is the creation complex? The knowledge of the creation complex? That's what you're asking?
The whole Vedas are complex.
No, the Vedas are I didn't say that. It's not exactly the Vedas are complex. The process of creation is complex. The Vedas are simple. The Vedas means what's the source of everything? And the source of everything is not complex. But the connections between the source that's subtle, and then the less subtle and the less subtle, and the connections is not easy to discern, but the principle is not complex. The principle is quite simple. Behind everything, there's a source, and if the source is in the spiritual, not material side. Matter comes from spirit. It's simple. The connections between, matter and spirit, just put it in those terms, that's not easy. That's not easy to discern, but the principle is quite simple. Once one has understood the principle, then it becomes more interesting to understand the connections, like what's coming up. Spirit and matter, creation, matter, and in stages of unfolding. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj. I have another comment, Maharaj. So, one thing I learned from today's session is that everything has a cause and effect. So,
Well, yes, there's the cause of all causes, and then that which the cause of all causes creates an effect, which then becomes the cause of something else and the cause of something else, and so cause and effect from the cause of all causes. Yes.
okay, so that means when we are doing some activities, which is whether it is material or spiritual, we should think in terms of this cause and effect. Will that help, Maharaj?
Well, you can do that, but that's not necessarily, we're sitting in the room and there's a fan spinning in the ceiling, and over there's some artificial flowers, and that you look around. So it's not like it's a necessity that as I see something, I contemplate the cause behind it, cause behind it, cause behind it. But simply there's original cause. Like artificial flowers. It's a copy, it's artificial of real flowers, and where real flowers come from, go back and back and back and back and back. But so it's a matter of understanding behind all things there's an ultimate cause, the cause of all, sarva karana karanam. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
You're letting me off easy. I'm okay.
So, Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada writes, everything is created beautifully by Paramatma in this world. Then the question, the problem of evil.
Evil.
How come suffering, imperfection, so-called imperfections
You
that
know
we...
the answer. Misuse of free will is the cause. We're the cause of suffering. We suffer because of misuse of free will. A very simple understanding. It's nice to keep things simple. A simple understanding is there is free will, which means I have the opportunity to properly or improperly use it. Here's $1 million. I can properly or improperly use it. or the one who's the recipient of it. The $1 million isn't the problem. It's the proper or misuse. That's the problem or not the problem. So we're given free will because we're part and parcel of the Supreme, who has unlimited free will. And the proper use of free will means the opportunity for love is there. Supposing there's no opportunity, there's no love. Supposing there is opportunity, then I can misuse. And here we are. A place where there's, the idea of evil, that's another, it's a concept. And what is it? What brings suffering to myself or others? That's evil. But again, it's free will, proper or misuse of free will. So we exist, and we exist in a pure state, in a loving condition. But we can say no. I choose not. So that choice is the evil, and then the consequences of that choice, because we're responsible for our choices and the consequences of our choices. So behind the evil is that there's sanction, but not volition. On the part of Krishna, he doesn't want that people suffer. He doesn't want that people misuse. He wants a loving, it's dynamic. That's what he wants. But he doesn't assert over our free will what he wants. He gives us the freedom. And then we're responsible for those choices. It's the classic way Prabhupada would answer something like this, like the prison house. The state doesn't think, hey, let's have a government, and first of all, let's build a prison. I really want to build a prison because I want people to suffer. Because there's a state and there's laws, and people obey the laws. In an ideal situation, because it's good for people. Good laws are good for good people, and then some people are going to violate those good for good people laws. So you have to have a place for those people. That's misuse of free will. It's not the fault of the state or the government that there are criminals, and then criminals a place for them to reside. A prison. So they can be curbed from harming other people and maybe become reformed. Anyway, evil. Good and evil. Place of duality. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.